Hi, Caroline. Welcome to my show, Intensify Humanity. And I'm really thankful to you for accepting the invitation. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Somdutta. I think it's a pleasure and certainly an honor to be on this podcast. I love the context that you shared before the interview, and I look forward to joining in on this conversation. Let's have some fun.
Great, awesome. I have lots to ask you and, to know from you in detail because you have varied experience in this field. So, my first question is you talk mostly about courage and vulnerability. What made you speak about vulnerability so much, and when was the first time you decided to speak about this topic and spread awareness?
So I discovered my own voice. I discovered that I could give myself the permission to, access courage only a few years ago, actually. So I consider myself to be a late bloomer from that perspective. Um, I, through many experiences, and I could probably attribute a lot of things to stories, but then that is taking away responsibility and ownership and putting it on to either another person or a situation. And so over the last few years, I have really, not just through the profession of coaching, but being a coach has, I think, been a huge breakthrough for me because I realized that while I facilitate other people to take ownership, I too need to start doing that myself. So there was a lot of parallel discovery, inner work that I, started on, and it's an ongoing journey, but I think it's only been a few years ago that I started to realize that I have all the resources that I have. It's in me, and that also means that looking at myself and being able to accept everything, what I have labeled good, bad, ugly, looking at all of that has helped me look at some situations from the past which I've not been comfortable with, and take responsibility in the present moment. And that has, I feel that has taken courage, discipline, humility, and through that, I feel that vulnerability is a space that I operate from. If you look at a lot of my content that I create, I work from a space of sharing my own experiences. It's not conceptual because I feel that my own experiences are a space for me to open up, but also to connect with collaborators, connect with clients, connect with investors. So it's really been a very powerful channel in my experience.
Wow, that's beautiful. But when you said that you found your voice just few years back, what does that mean? What kind of a person were you before that? And how did you find it?
That's a good observation. So while I do a lot of work around mindfulness and in the space of self-awareness. And one of the great teachers that I follow is Eckhart Tolle, and so he talks about unconsciousness or unawareness, and I believe that for a long time I have been in that space. And while all of us are, there are spaces in our life even right now that we're unaware of. I think I was literally sleeping for most of my life. And while I thought I was this brave person, who had a lot of courage, I realized now that I was not. I was putting a brave front while I was really scared behind that. Or I was very, I had a lot of repressed and suppressed anger. And I didn't even know about it. I didn't even know that I had all this anger inside of me. And while I would express myself, it would not come from a space of understanding. It would come from a space of fear. And that's the reason, through Viba as well, that the community that I handcrafted over 5 years ago, one of the tenets is speaking up, because that was something that I did not know about. I did not know how to do. And that's why I believe that taking ownership, speaking up for oneself, not to the world, but for yourself, is very, very deeply satisfying, very fulfilling. And that's why I say that I only discovered it a few years ago, finding my voice for myself.
Wow. I mean, that's really powerful, and I can resonate with you, like when you first realized it. But the point that you mentioned, that there was a anger inside you, it was repressed, and you were fearful of something. So, what were you fearful of? Were you fearful of your own inhibitions or your own self or the external world outside you?
It's both. I think I've come to realize that the external world is a reflection of what's going on inside, right? So I've been a people pleaser for pretty much my whole life, afraid of being rejected, afraid of being alone, afraid of being abandoned, and I operated from that space. So that was largely, what I operated from, that fear, the fear of being alone.
I understand that, and you explained it so beautifully. So, related to this, you also call yourself as a social innovator. What does that mean?
So there are, projects, and this is largely around the space of inclusion, which I design and facilitate. One is through Viva, and the other is through TIR. Um, while these two spaces or channels are directed towards different audiences, some of the mission and alignment is overlaps. So Viva is largely directed for entrepreneurs, and while we started it for women, it's now open to men, and it's a global community. But TIR as a business is for corporates, specifically leaders, teams, and messaging that we can help them with for employees. So for me, I feel that there are a lot of beliefs that we have. Some beliefs are cultural, as a people. Some beliefs are based on our history, our background, our family, the schools that we are brought up in, and several other things which are we're not aware of because it's shaping us, but we're not aware that it is shaping us. It's shaping our beliefs, the way we look at the world, the way we look at ourselves. And through these initiatives, my aim, my endeavor is to bring about awareness of what these beliefs are, how are they expressing themselves, how are we showing up unconsciously, and how are we feeding into this collective unconsciousness in a way that is harming us. For instance, some of the cultural biases that we have at work, gender biases, and these are just a few examples that I'm kind of pulling up. But why I see myself as a social innovator is because one, I use my voice around these things, and I feel it is very, very relevant for companies and for communities to start to recognize this, even if they're not. But recognition and acknowledgement is just one part of it. What are we doing about it? How are we, taking action towards behaving better, thinking better, acknowledging some of these biases in a way where we don't have shame, where we don't have embarrassment around them, and say it's okay, I think these things, but how can I show up better? How can I bring in better respect for the people that I interact with? And therefore, um, all the work that I do is largely around disrupting that, if you will, shaking the status quo, asking questions that encourage people to look inside. And I think that is a part of innovation, because we are not, the idea is to look at doing things in a different way, in a better way, that will help people, show up in a better way as well. So that's the reason I kind of look at myself as a social innovator.
That's a very crucial point you have touched, that when we spread awareness, that's just the first level. But what after that? Are we acknowledging? Are we doing something about it? Are we really working on it, or just, just realizing and there it just stops. So thanks for bringing that point so beautifully up. And my next question is, you mentioned about your initiatives TIR Global and Vibha, and plus you also started few series on LinkedIn as well. So when did these initiatives, especially the TIR Global and Vibha, start? And when did it come to your mind, I have to start this kind of something to help people out there?
So that's a really powerful question. They're both interconnected. Um, I transitioned out of HP in 2014. I was part of a downsizing, experience, and it was very, very, hard for me from the perspective of losing a job, from the perspective of not going into work, all those routines, meeting people, going into work, doing things, earning, all those things were suddenly just taken away. And TIR was something that was already brewing in the making, because I have also mentioned this in several of my posts that I used to front face in HP with a lot of vendors. And I realized that many of these vendors would come in to train, and I realized that training was very transactional, because it's kind of connected to what we just spoke about as well, the whole piece around acknowledgement but also doing. And I feel that many of these L&D facilitators that come in try to do things in a day and walk away, but does that really create impact? Do people understand, and are they really engaged in these programs? The short answer is no. And I started to feel restless about this, and I thought, if I ever left this job, I want to start a company where I can partner, not vendor. I can partner with companies, work with them to really understand first, instead of solutioning, understand what their pain points are as a company, what sort of outcomes they want, and then help them co create a plan, facilitate that plan, hand hold them through those changes. Now, that is transformational, that is not transactional. And therefore, that's when I started TIR. So, TIR stands for the Indian Renaissance Global. I gave it this name because I felt there were a lot of ancient tools and techniques that are overlooked, that are not recognized in the space of learning and development, and that can actually be very powerful. For instance, applied theater, the use of mindfulness, and several other things that TIR brings in. And what we do is that we merge, or we blend this with frameworks that are a lot more relevant. For instance, coaching. For instance, several other things like webinars and workshops. So we blend that in, but we also are mindful of the fact that these are things that take time, because people need to show up, they need to practice new behaviors, and that helps them reinforce a new way of thinking as well. Therefore, a new belief around something. It could be, for instance, respect around gender, or it could be, maybe a technology that's being introduced. And how is this, impacting people? Are they scared? Do they think they're going to lose their job? So, what are leaders doing to reassure people? How are they communicating the message to them? How are they building trust? Because if people are scared, they're not going to show up authentically. If they are uncertain, they're not going to collaborate in a real way. And how do you expect them to be productive? Therefore, we operate from the inside out in order to help build better practices of the way people show up and the way they engage. And the second part is around Vibha. So I curated, handcrafted Vibha around the same time that I started my business, TIR. While TIR now has two teams, we are present in the US, we are present in India, specifically Bangalore. Our space and our focus through TIR is around leadership growth, diversity and inclusion, and employee engagement. Vibha is largely for women, that's where I started it, because of some of the challenges that I experienced as a woman, with our culture in India, and some of the things that I felt needed more, attention. And those are around building a safe space of support. You spoke about shame, guilt, fear, which are very powerful. I think we need more conversations around that, and that's what we do through Viva. In 2018, because of the way my LinkedIn following started to go, I realized that I did not want to confine Viva to just women. I thought it defeated the purpose of inclusion, and therefore I opened it up to men. And now we focus on offering safe space for conversation, allowing you to talk about your struggle, supporting you through that journey, offering you monthly webinars. And we have a lot more that we have started this year. We have launched our mentoring program. We have launched a program for women coming back into the workplace who need to develop the right skills to be hired.
Wow.
And we have a few more things as we partner with a few global organizations through my network. So I encourage everyone to stay tuned for that.
This is really exciting. You have taken this two initiatives to a huge level. And thank you for sharing so much in detail. And I'm sure people who are looking out for that kind of solution, that kind of help, they can definitely get in touch with you. And talking about your initiatives and the things that you have created, you have started, another thing that comes up is your upcoming book, Becoming You. So, what is it about? Who is it exactly for? And how did this idea come to your mind?
Beautiful. So, first of all, I must appreciate your listening, because I think you're very intuitive and your questions are really very powerful.
Thank you so
Um,
much, Caroline.
no, I really commend your construct, because it reflects a very intuitive mind. So I love that, and I thank you
My
for,
pleasure. I'm glad you liked
yeah, I
it.
thank you for what you're doing, because these are the kind of conversations that encourage people like you and me who are out there, who don't know of a way, who might not know what to do. And it's things like this, things that we do, that provide space, provide an opening in the mind, to
Exactly.
let people know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything that you're doing.
My pleasure. I'm glad. And I'm really thankful to you. We are having this conversation.
My pleasure as well.
Yeah.
So coming to the book, the book is an extension of everything that I just spoke about. It's themed around transitions. So a person who is transitioning maybe from one role into another in corporate, a person who has been in corporate and wants to start a business, a person who got out of corporate, tried being a business owner, but getting back into corporate, a woman who has taken a break, been on sabbatical, planning to get back into work or planning to start a business. These would be some of the top, uh, audience list that I would think and imagine can definitely see some value from the stories. The book is called Becoming You, Stories of Courage and Vulnerability. Um, I still speak from a space of courage and vulnerability through what I have shared. But the other interesting part is that, because I believe so deeply in inclusivity, and my network is global, I have invited six other humans who I know really well from LinkedIn to also share their stories of becoming, and they're from different other countries apart from India. So it's going to be interesting, because like you were talking about several things around hesitation. So we talk very freely, very openly about all these things in the book. And the beautiful part is that, it's not just from one country, it's from, you're getting perspectives from all over.
Wow. So the transitions that you mentioned, those are very niche. And there are so many people who are stuck, who are not getting any particular answer. Especially, I would take the case like the women returning to work, the sabbatical, after sabbatical, and, getting the right kind of skills and everything. So that is another very big genre where I'm sure they will get a lot of insights and help from the book itself. And you are co-authoring the book with so many other people from across the globe. It's a big thing, and I would be definitely waiting for the book to come out. And all the best for the book, first of all, and a big congratulations. So when is it coming out?
Um, so we have milestones. The idea is not just to launch the book and leave it at that. The idea is to use the book as a launch pad through Viva. We will be handcrafting an event in Bangalore around transitions again. We're going to have about five speakers, including myself, all again a diverse background. We're targeting May, where the idea is again to share stories, but also create a very, very highly engaging, interactive session with the audience that I just spoke about. So we're going to invite entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs to come be a part of this and just open up about some of these things. So excuse me, to your question, we are targeting the end of April for this to come out, and for people to have enough time to access the book and then to be able to come for this handcrafted event in Bangalore as well.
That's amazing. And it's just March, April, right? So next month itself. Oh, this is really exciting. All the best for your book. I'm sure it is going to disrupt many things out there.
Thank you. That's the idea.
I'm sure it will. So, yeah. So, talking about all your experiences, all your initiatives that you shared, what are the three major learning you want to share with the people so that they can keep in mind and, act accordingly?
I don't know about three, but I think one thing that comes to mind is be sincere with yourself. Um, the more sincere you are, the faster you can start to realize where you are and where you want to go. The quicker you can take ownership for yourself, the quicker you can take action. So, being sincere with yourself. I think the second thing through that same point would be make time for yourself. I do it every day.
Yeah.
It all depends on your own logistics and things like that. But make the time for yourself so that you can practice honesty, you can practice sincerity. There's a lot of noise everywhere on social media, and we're always doing things to keep our mind busy. But the space of silence and stillness has a lot of power to help you get creative, to help you see things for what they are. So, those would be my two takeaways: being honest and spending time with yourself.
I couldn't agree with you more. Those are very powerful points, especially spending time with yourself every day. When you spoke about the silence part, I myself experienced it. It is so powerful that basically when you see all the solution are within ourself itself, but we are so much chaotic in this, like we are, our mind is so chaotic in this world that we always look for things outside, but we never think of
Absolutely.
giving time to ourselves, just calm down and listen to what we are trying to say to ourselves. So that's a very powerful point you shared. And yes, even I spend time with myself every day. That's like a, booster, energetic
Wonderful.
booster. Yeah. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much for sharing that. So,
Thank you.
Caroline, how do you see the world from your eyes after exactly 10 years
You mean 10 years from now?
from now?
I see a collective, a growing collective of people who are more aware, who want to show up in a better way for themselves, for people around them, but also for the planet. I think a lot of things that we're doing right now are hurting humans and hurting other creatures. And I believe that the intention to be more mindful of this will continue to grow. So that would be my, you know, if I would fast forward 10 years from now, we'd have a stronger, more intentional community out there, global community of people.
That's very deep, and that's a amazing worldview. So, keeping that in mind, what is your next phase of initiatives that you are taking up apart from the book?
I think currently I want to stay focused on the way Viva is unfolding and evolving. There's a lot happening, from a foundational perspective, and I want to really ground that this year, and then be able to use a lot of work that we're doing to take that into companies around diversity, inclusion, respect, through TIR. So those right now are my current commitments, my where my focus, my attention, and my heart and soul is.
I'm sure it is going to do great. All the best for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And in one line, if you can say, what is your purpose in life?
I'm living it.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to
Well,
articulate it, but everything that I'm doing right now is very purposeful, very intentional, and I wouldn't exchange it for anything in the world. Nothing.
that's so simple, powerful, and so honest answer that I've got till now. So it's really beautiful. You're living your purpose. Nothing better than that.
I am, and it feels great. Let me tell you something. Uh, on a not really on a side note, but to add to that, it's not easy. It's not easy being honest. It's not easy being sincere. It's also not easy to be purposeful because there's so many things that can be a distraction. So it's really hard. But at the end of the day, it offers a deep, deep sense of internal satisfaction and fulfillment.
Absolutely agree, because that's where the courage comes into picture, right? If everybody,
Absolutely.
if it would have been easy, then all the people in the world would have been living their purpose and everybody would have been happy
True.
about it. So
True.
it definitely takes immense amount of courage, sacrifices, and lots of stuffs. So really appreciate and respect you for that.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for everything that you're doing. I really appreciate this. And if there's anything, that I can do, please do not hesitate to reach out. In fact, I would love to have you join the Viva community.
oh
I
wow,
think
that's an honor.
no, the honor is all ours, and to participate in whatever way, and I'd love to scope things out with you. So the honor is all mine.
Caroline, that's a huge honor. Thank you so much. With all, I'm humbled and honored. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Definitely, I will reach out to you to discuss
Process.
more on this. But I have three specific questions, little questions more. So, who is your favorite author?
Eckhart Tolle. I think this could be transitional. I don't know, but the space that I'm in right now, I feel that I'm living through his content. I'm living through his teaching. So I would say that at this point, he is my most meaningful author.
Wow, that's beautiful. Okay, so if not an international speaker, host, coach, and mentor, what would Caroline be?
I think it's connected to, what we were talking about, living my purpose. I don't see it any other way. Although I must also add that, these are just labels. The word coach, the word mentor, these are all just labels
Yes.
which are very external. So it doesn't really matter. Even if all that is taken away, I'd still do the work. So I think it still centers around the work that I do. It doesn't matter what I'm called or what people call me. And yeah, that's my perspective on it.
Another very powerful and very honest answer. It's beautiful. I'm really enjoying answering, listening to your answers. So, how can our listeners connect with you?
I'm most easily linked with LinkedIn. So people can DM me over there. I also have my personal website, carolinefernandes.me. They can join me over there, drop me an email. But these two are definitely ways that anyone can reach out to me.
It was absolute pleasure, and I'm honored and humbled by having this interview with you, having this deep discussion with you. There are so many things to learn from you. Just if I can take away all these things right now, so I would take one thing from you. That is, whatever you do, if you just put in a little bit of courage, you can get what you want exactly. So, vulnerability is nothing but another side of courage.
Hmm.
So, the other side
Beautiful.
of the coin. So, thank you so much, Caroline, for having a talk on Intensify Humanity with me. I wish you all the best for all your endeavors and especially for your upcoming book. And thank you so much.
I must thank you because I think you bring in a lot of honesty as well. I think you bring in a lot of courage as well to show up and talk about these things, also reflects your inner work. So I celebrate you. And like I said, I'd love to have you as a part of the Viva community. And if there's anything that I can do to support your efforts, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much, Caroline. I'm really honored. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.